Everything that you need to know about the Field Experience project is actually on this page inside of CourseDen, located inside of Session 2. So you do not have to watch this video in order to know what to do. But the purpose of this video is to walk folks through it who maybe would rather hear me talk about it as well as have writing about it, okay? So I'm going to walk you through it. You're welcome to watch this. I'm going to walk you through it kind of like you're sitting in a classroom and I'm talking to you. And feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Okay, we're going to talk about the field experience, and I'm going to start first by talking for a moment about the EDUC courses. We're just looking at a program sheet of secondary education majors specializing in history. And if you're in this class, chances are your program sheet also requires you to take these 3 EDUC classes. Anybody that wants to go into speech-language pathology or teaching has to take the 3 EDUCs. So currently you guys are in this one with me on investigating critical and contemporary issues. You may be taking others at the same time. Now the field experience is an important part of these 3 courses. Each of these courses requires that you do at least 10 hours of field experience so that you have 30 distinct, or maybe even more than 30, but at least 30 distinct hours that you have done time in the field. Sometimes that field is the actual real world where you can touch and see and feel, and sometimes that field is interpreted by the instructor as observing through online things, online resources, and that kind of thing. So when I first began teaching EDUC 2110, all of the field experiences my students did were done out in real human settings that were not mediated by technology. They were not online. But now I provide 5 hours of field experiences for you inside of coursework. So if you did all the work in the course, then you've probably hit at least 5 hours of your field experience. That means you still have to get 10 hours. I'm sorry, you still have to get 5 extra hours on top of that. Okay, so this is something you have to be very careful about. If you miss this 10 hours in any of these classes, you can get either an incomplete. In my class, I give an incomplete, assuming you've done enough work to earn an incomplete. In other classes, you may get an F. So it depends. F is, I think, the policy. Incomplete is a little bit nicer. Incomplete means that you can come back 2 weeks later and finish it up, or come back 2 months later and finish it up, and then we'll do a grade change to whatever grade you earned. And so it's important that you take this seriously. Try not to cut corners. Don't try not to double dip. Don't think that your 10 hours in my class will also count for 10 hours for some other class. Okay? That is not the way it works. It's 10 distinct hours, 10 separate hours for a total of 30 hours or even more. Also, if you don't like my 5 hours of course embedded field experience and you want to actually be out in a field setting for 5 more hours, you're welcome to do that. I will not penalize you for that. I mean, this is an opportunity for you, and if you're really jiving with whatever it is that you're observing, feel free to do more time. Okay? All right. So let's go and look at the assignment. So the field experience is a way for you to go in and observe human-built programs. These programs that are made they have a goal in mind. Like at a soup kitchen, the goal is to feed people. And there's probably more goals than that. So you want to ask yourself, what is the goal of this program? At an after-school program, there may be a goal of helping students improve their math skills. So these are human programs. They involve planning and they involve interactions with people, and that's what you're going to be looking at. And you're going to try to connect it both to issues in this class, and you're going to try to connect it with both your past experiences and your future. Okay, so you're going to kind of think of your position within all of this as well. And think about your field that you're going into, teacher, speech-language pathologist, or for some of you, possibly even other things. You may have some other ideas for places you'd like to eventually end up in your career. Okay, so what is the assignment? The assignment is to observe at least 5 hours in the field and to write a reflection paper about what you observed. In addition, you're going to provide evidence of time in the field through the field experience timesheet. Then you're going to submit both of these to the Dropbox called Field Experience Timesheet and Reflection. Okay? So now let's dig a little deeper. Let's look at this reflection paper template. This is very important, and I try not to write a lot about it here. I try to write as little as possible even though you probably don't believe me because this is a long page full of information, but I really did cut about 25% of it out from previous semesters. I try to keep it spare. I try not to repeat myself too much in here. But so use this reflection paper template, lean on it heavily, and be glad. I mean, some of you may be English majors, or you pride yourself on your writing and you may resent what you're about to see, but just know it's here as a guide, and I urge you to just use it directly. Almost look at it, you can almost look at it as like a worksheet. We've all been in classes where we had to fill out a worksheet to demonstrate our knowledge. You know, fill in the blank, write a paragraph in this space. So let's go ahead and look at this sheet. And so you can see what this is. Because this paper, now this paper has been, it's fulfilling requirements that are beyond even my class. Like, I've had you guys do this in the past, but new requirements have been imposed on me. And any of you going to education, get used to that. That is one of the challenges. I mean, that could be a hot topic in education in itself, is that lots of external requirements are pushed down on us. And the point of that is hopefully to help the student. So the reason why new requirements have been pushed down on this particular assignment, this reflective writing, is because it has been deemed that reflective writing is very important to you, not only because you, as a teacher and a speech language pathologist, you want to be a reflective practitioner. That is, you're practicing your profession and you think about what you're doing and you think about the value you're adding and you evaluate those experiences, and so you need to learn to be reflective. And my main complaint would be, just as an aside, sometimes I feel like teachers, for example, don't have time to be reflective. But that's another matter. It's good to be reflective. It's good to think about what you're doing and not just go through the motions like an automaton. So that's one of the things that this assignment seeks to help you to develop, is the ability to think about and think around these experiences. So you don't just write a descriptive summary of what happened and then a quick paragraph about what you think, but we're going to ask you in many ways to tell us what you think about what happened, okay? So why don't we take a look at this. Now I'm in Office, I think I'm in Office 2011. I'm not sure what version I'm looking at. Well, I'm not sure, but I'm in a very recent version of Office, and so you may not recognize it. It may not look like yours. So what you're seeing on my screen here may look different from what you see when you open this Word document. And I actually prefer the old version. But what I've done is, let's go ahead and just look at these stages first. These are the stages that you will be writing in. Not my favorite term, but that's what we're calling it. In the first section, in fact, we should just call that section 1, but maybe later. All right, description of the event. You need to tell us what happened. You're going to tell what happened as you describe the event or experience. So those 5 hours of observations you did, I want to hear a play-by-play of what happened. Let's see. I would say maybe give this about a page. That's probably enough. I really think it can get insane if you go. I mean, if you want to go past a page, that's fine. 1 to 2 pages. And I went ahead and typed that in there, and I'm going to re-upload this in a minute. By the time you get it, it'll say how many pages. The description of your reactions to what happened. Describe how you felt about or reacted to the event as you were observing. That's one aspect, and then evaluate the experience for you. That's another. Okay, so I've gone in and added for each of these major stage sections 1 to 2 pages. Stage 3, analysis of the event. What sense can you make of your observation experience? And stage 4, conclusions. What can you conclude in a general sense from your observation experience and analysis? Draw conclusions related to your own situation. Okay, so you can actually leave these headings, you can leave this information and this sort of question or prompt here, and you can write under it. Just put a space under it, and you can fill this out. And it may not feel like an essay in that way, but it really is. It still requires you to tell your story in an essay format. It's just heavily, you're using the headings. These are basically headings that I'm providing to help keep you structured. That's going to go a long way to help us both communicate with one another in this assignment. If you leave these here, then when I go and grade it, I am more likely to be able to say, yes, indeed, you did do that. It will really help me and you both. So please actually leave these headings here. If you prefer, if you want to take out things like 1 to 2 pages, you can remove that. That doesn't need to be there. And if you want to remove that what happened in that 1 to 2 pages thing, you can remove that too. And you could get rid of these prompts here, but I would leave them, honestly. But do leave the stage lines, please. All right, so I have read through the basic format of this paper, but I haven't shown you the comments over here. So if you're like, what do you mean by tell what happened as you describe the event or experience? You need to also read the comments in detail. It explains what it is I expect from you on this. Okay, so you need to read that. So here, this is asking, what did you see, hear, and experience? Include who was involved, no names, use pseudonyms if needed, what the event was, when and where the event was taking place, and how it was conducted or happening. In short, what was going on and what did you observe? Okay. Description of reactions. We've got a bubble next to 2A and 2B. So if these two, like for me even, because I did not create this template, guys. This is a required format that I'm having to guide you guys through. Even for me, I might not know what is the difference between describe how you felt about or reacted to the event as you were observing versus evaluate the experience for you. Like those seem very similar to me until you read the little comments. 2A is about were you excited, engaged, bored, confused, overwhelmed, informed, encouraged, and or frustrated? What specifically about the event or observation led to this feeling or reaction? Okay, evaluate the experience for you. What does that mean? Provide a value judgment about the experience. What was good or bad about the experience for you? For example, what did you see, hear, or experience that was good, important, meaningful, relevant, informative, or applicable to you as you prepare for a career in education or speech-language pathology? Sometimes folks forget to add that. Or was nothing that you observed relevant, meaningful, or useful to you? Provide specific examples of what you observed or experienced that led to this value judgment. Be sure to write or speak in an honest, reflective tone as you evaluate the experience. Use first person as you write reflectively. I felt, or I thought, or I hoped that, or I had anticipated. Okay? So that's what these things mean. Otherwise, you might not know what they meant, just like I didn't when I first saw them. I was like, what does that mean? Because the rubric is based on these kind of high-level things, and I read that rubric, and I was like, I need help understanding what this means. And then somebody gave me this translation document with these comments, and suddenly it makes a lot of sense. All right, so stage 3, what sense can you make of your observation experience? What the heck does that mean? Well, for example, were there any themes or patterns or organization that emerged during your observation? Link your observation back to your own past experience and to concepts, theories, or research from the course. So guys, think back on the 6 blogging sessions where we kind of delve into issues and maybe think about your hot topic and try to make connections with between what you're observing in this setting with some of the things we've talked about in the course. Use academic language from the course as you make these links to the course in your own experience. And I will provide some glossaries to academic language for you guys. It'll be in the inside of the, you'll find it. I'll show you in just a minute. Oops. Use concrete examples of what you observe to support or illustrate the patterns, themes, or concepts that you identify. So throughout, try to use examples. Try not to just speak generally. Like if you say that you felt like it was a hostile environment, can you give examples of the hostility? Like let's say you go to the soup kitchen and you feel like the people working the soup line are being hostile towards the customer. Give examples of what you mean by that, okay? So throughout, do give examples, and sometimes you may feel like you're repeating yourself between these sections, but it's better to kind of over-explain and over-repeat than it would be to under-explain, okay? So don't feel too bad, but at the same time, don't just copy and paste the same passages over and over again either. All right, so stage 4. What can you conclude in a general sense from your observation, experience, and analysis? Well, what does that mean? Are there any concepts, theories, or ideas presented in the course or from your past experiences supported or not by what you observed in your field experience? So try to connect this to the. So you're going big picture now. You're kind of pulling out of this essay and this reflection. You're about to say goodbye to it, but as some sort of final thoughts, tying it to the bigger picture of maybe things we learned about in this class or from your past experiences. And then I give you a tip to see the list of educational issues for ideas. Perhaps how did one or two of these topics or issues show up in your observed setting? What more has your field experience taught you about these topics or issues? So I'll give you a little hint there. I'll go ahead and open that and show you that list. So there's lots of lists, lots of things here: bilingual education, dropout problems, homeschool movement, No Child Left Behind. There's a lot of issues, like little small level issues that may bear in your paper. So try to make those connections. Okay, don't just expect me to make those connections for you. All right, draw conclusions related to your own situation. Okay, see, that sounds a little redundant, doesn't it? A little bit. But no, if you read this, it'll kind of explain what this means. How does this observation experience inform or impact your current habits and experiences as a student, friend, parent, or employee? Looking ahead, how does this observation experience inform you about your future practice as an educator? What ideas, concepts, and practices will you likely use yourself, and which will you not try to implement? Okay, so that's what these sections are about. Let's go ahead and work with this template, and I do value your feedback. If as you're going through it you have opinions about it, feel free to share those with me, because we need to improve things every semester after we try them out. So in your Word document, you may see actual pink or green or some other purple bubbles off to the side with the comments in them. It's very likely that they won't look like this, but just keep in mind these comments are here. And I actually recommend that after you're finished writing your paper and you kind of know what belongs in this section. Actually, there's two things you could do, but I recommend that you could delete the comments, but you don't have to. If you kind of like them there, that's fine, because I can always go over to review. Here's what I meant. Okay, by default, usually the comments show, and they don't look exactly, in the older versions of Word, they don't look exactly like this, but it's very similar. Okay, but in the older versions of Word, it's more like little balloons, little colored balloons, and either way is fine. And so what I can do when I open your paper is I can download it, and then I can turn off the showing of comments, and it won't bother me if you keep the comments there. I think it's good to keep it there so that when you get your feedback returned to you, if I'm complaining about any section, you can go double check, okay, what did that section really want me to do? And you can look at your own verbiage next to it. I think so. Leave the comments there if you like, and just know that you can go into the review tab. You can always hit show comments or turn off show comments. One other thing that I did not that I kind of glossed over was use academic language. Basically, this is us trying to get you to use vocabulary and terminology from the profession, and academic language varies by what you guys are going to be doing, what you're going to be teaching, the level you're going to be at. So not all of you are going to have to know the exact same academic language, although in education there are a lot of terms that we hold in common. Even so, though, that doesn't mean we all agree on what any of them, the definitions of any of them are. That's one of the big challenges in education, I think, is that we all wander around with different definitions of a lot of the things we say. But anyway, to the extent possible, I need you to check out the academic language glossaries that I'm going to provide, and I need you to try to use some of those terms and maybe even underline them if you use them. I mean, to make them really obvious to me. But I don't think I'm going to require that, so don't worry about that. All right, so let's go back to the course now and look at the rest of the assignment. Okay. So while you were on pause, I came in and revised the assignment so that now you do have the access to the academic language documents in here. Kind of skim through those. Depending on your content area, that language is different. The reflection paper rubric is here. It sort of corresponds with the paper template. Let me know if you have any questions. It doesn't have points values on it at this time. We'll figure those out. But the thing is, the way I grade, it could be that you are missing one thing to such an extent that I tell you that you're not going to get your grade until you go and correct it. And usually in my class, you can correct things if there's a problem. And so I'm not concerned right now with the points values tied to it. What you need to focus on is just making sure you're complete and that you're addressing all of the aspects requested. And then we can hammer out points values later, but again, like I just said, you will have the opportunity to revise. Let's just try not to have to do that, okay? Where possible. Try to knock it out of the park the first time through and you'll be fine. Table of contents of this page. So this page, so I've told you the assignment in brief. You're going to observe at least 5 hours in the field and you're going to write a paper about it. Okay? And if you think about it, you probably need to take some notes about what you see because you might not, let's say you do your first hour of observations one week, and then you do another hour the next week, and another hour the next week. Well, by the time you get to that 5th week, and you've done your 5 hours, then you might not remember what happened in hours 1 through 3. So take some notes so you have something to talk about. In fact, what I recommend, let me go back to the template. Let's look at it. What I recommend is that you actually do the first 2 sections, like anytime you do an observation, one simple thing to do would be to go in. And so the first thing is tell what happened as you describe the event or experience, and then be sure you check out the comment and make sure what you're covering what that means. I would recommend after you do each observation, you go in and you can even give it a date. You could say, Wednesday, September 15th, 2 hours, and then respond to this. And you can do that if you want to date those and just kind of cover what happened in each of those events per these instructions. That would be a really great way to sort of capture your data as you go. So you don't have to create an additional document with notes or anything like that. I mean, it's good to take notes too on a scrap of paper while you're there. Then the second thing you can do is actually react to it. How did these events that you're describing here make you feel? And you could maybe even do this evaluate. So I'd recommend that you do the stage 1 and 2 things in an ongoing fashion, and then maybe save stage 3 and stage 4 for later when you're kind of wrapping up the paper, you're kind of touching it up, you're embellishing it, you're making it readable, all that kind of stuff. And also, I think the advantage is that you get your event down in detail and your reactions to that event, and then you can kind of take a step back to actually analyze, sort of coolly analyze the event. I think there's some advantages to that. So again, recommendation, do stage 1 and 2 in an ongoing fashion as you do your observations. Okay. I actually feel like I'm about to start repeating myself. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the nitpicky details that support this assignment. This assignment is pretty simple, and yet there are some things you want to pay attention to. So in session 2, you want to figure out where you're going to do your 5 hours, and you want to declare your field experience. You want to tell me what your field experience is going to be. So you're going to do some thinking, maybe make some phone calls, maybe do some research, and then you're going to pick a place to do your field experience. And then you're going to try to set up that first field experience appointment where you get to go and observe. Okay? During sessions 3 through 6, you can be working on those field experience activities. Technically, you could finish up your field experience by the end of session 3, probably. But I recommend that you don't turn it in at that point. Don't just be totally gung-ho to turn it in until you've got something to say that allows you to reflect, sort of tie it to the issues we're also talking about in the class. So if you submit in session 3, that's too early because you haven't gone through all of the blogging topics and you haven't done your hot topics and education assignment and things like that. So we want a little bit of these ideas that you're learning about and your field experience to kind of percolate with the rest of the class. So hold off on actually submitting it. You can do a big nice draft of it early if you're an early bird type of person. So I don't want to stop you, but you do need to wait until you've kind of gone through a lot of the class before you hit that send button. Around session 7, that's when you can be turning in the field experience documentation. You can submit it as early as the first day of session 6. Let me put it that way. So you can turn it in, 2 or 3 weeks before session 7, 2 weeks before then, if you want to. But please don't try to submit it before session 6. So this page, the rest of this page talks about these things. So during session 2, what do you want to do? You want to declare your field experience. You need to decide where you're going to conduct it. These are some examples of places that you can go. These are some important rules about what this is about. The field experience should be a new experience for you. It should not be something easy and familiar. It should not occur during the regular school day in K-12 settings. This is kind of a legal thing. It may occur at a K-12 school site after the school day has ended. It can't be part of the regular K-12 programming. Should not be part of your job or responsibility. Should not be unpaid volunteer work doing what you normally get paid to do, because that gets into the whole, well, you're already familiar with it, obviously, if you do it for a living or you do it for pay, other times. Cannot count for more than one EDC course. May take place in more than one context, so you can do multiple sites. Should not be at your church, but could be at a different church where some cultural crossover is likely to occur. Okay, so while you're on pause for a moment, I actually added a couple of things. If you want to observe at the UWG Comprehensive Community Clinic, you can watch this. You can go to the CCC orientation dates page, which will eventually be updated with the fall 2014 orientation dates. Those have not been announced as of September 7th. And if you're interested in UCode at UWG, which is a weekend thing that happens once a month, it's about coding, teaching kids how to code. You can read about it here, and you can sign up here. Okay, and I'm limiting it, I think, to 10 per session. So be the first to sign up and tell me what hours you plan to be there. So those instructions are on those pages. Okay, so we talked about these items. You need to establish contact with the people at the site that you choose. If it helps when you're trying to obtain permission to enter a setting, it may help to download this letter that I've written where they can learn a little bit about what the purpose is and who I am and what I'm asking you to do. You may not need to use this, so it's just here to help you if you need it. Once you've kind of figured out where you think you're going to do your field experience, I want you to fill out the Declaration of Field Experience form. Let's take a look at that really quickly. You can always go and click on it and look at what it's asking. It's asking for your information, whether you're in other EDUC classes, and then what are the sites you want to be at, the organization name, the physical address, all of these things you must input. And I've got fields for both a Site 1 and a Site 2 if you have a second place that you have in mind. That's great. Preferably you kind of confirm with these people that you're going to do this, but if nothing else, I mean, you can fill this out before you've received that confirmation as well. Okay, but you need to act on that quickly after you've declared it. You need to go make sure that that's the site that you want, and then if the site changes or if you get an additional field placement, I'm asking that you please come fill this out again for the new site that you use, because I need to know all of the sites that you're at, and I need to know all their information so that I can double check on you guys. Okay, so that also when you fill in your timesheet, which is this next item, it actually makes sense, because on the timesheet I don't ask that you provide all of this information. On the timesheet you just provide location of the observation and the supervisor's signature. So the way that hooks into this form that we're just looking at, it hooks into the Declaration of Field Experience so that when I see that supervisor name, I've got all this other information as well. And you don't have to fill it out on that timesheet every time you fill it out. Okay, so please get this Declaration of Field Experience done by the end of session 2. All right, let's talk about what we've got here. Field experience activities. So you log those field experience hours. You use this timesheet. You have to actually print it out. Let me go ahead and enable the editing so it looks right. You need to fill it. So you print it out, and then by hand you can write your name. You can also type if you prefer, but you write your name. Tell us the semester and the year. I've already filled out the instructor for you. I've also filled out the first 5 hours for you. No signature is needed from me because I can check in the course through various methods. I've tallied the hours over here off to the right, and eventually, so you're going to add line by line the face-to-face field experiences that you do, and then you need to tally the points. The hours here should equal 10 or more. Okay, and this is a document that you will be turning into the Dropbox, so you got to figure out how to do that. So you take this document with you every time you observe at a field site. You need to make it legible. Make sure you get that supervisor's signature. Don't just go to your field experience without this form. Go get it signed every single time. You have two options. You can use a scanner to turn it into a PDF. You can go to the Education Center. We've got scanners in both of the computer labs, and the ITS grad student can help you figure out how to do that. You could take an excellent clear photo of the timesheet with your cell phone. Now, I've had some people turn in some really fuzzy, awful photos, so don't do that. Get some good light going, no shadows. Don't do shaky cam with your hand. Make sure it's focused. Take the picture. Look at it, and what you do is you take that picture, you put it into a Word doc, and you fill it. You actually fill the screen with that picture. Okay? Does that make sense? That may not make sense to you. Let me quickly show you what I mean by that. We're just gonna look at this Word doc. All right, here's a Word doc, and I'm gonna go grab a picture of a document. Okay, so you take that picture on your phone, and you need to go to a computer probably to make this work, unless you're total whiz with mobile devices. But you take that, you have to copy and paste that picture into a Word document, and then you're going to drag the corner so that so it fits into the screen. So I have this picture. I have a picture of a field experience timesheet. Now this one is blank, but I've done it this way as in a quick example. Let's pretend this is a picture. We see that? That's a nice little picture. Hopefully when we blow it up, it'll be clear. So I'm going to hit copy. I'm going to go to my Word document, and I'm going to hit paste. Okay. For some reason it wasn't cooperating. Okay, so now we've got this picture of this field experience, but it's still not acceptable. You don't want to turn it into the Dropbox like this. You want to actually drag the corners of your picture so that it fits the page and it's big. And once it's big, I want you to zoom in, and I want you to check, is this legible? And here I'm looking at this, I'm zoomed in, this is not legible. So I'd have to redo it, honestly. And you just need to make sure you take a high enough quality picture that's not shaky, and then you need to redo it. And you might need to get a friend that's good with technology to help you take that picture, make sure the light's good, etc. Okay, I've beaten this horse to death, haven't I? Okay, back to this assignment. So that's another way you can do it. So you can use a scanner, or you can maybe use a smartphone, for example, take a really good picture. There's other ways to probably do it as well that I'm not thinking of. All right, so write your paper as you go. That was a tip I made at the top. Use the reflection paper template that I went over in detail at the beginning of this video to write your paper in an ongoing fashion. Remember when I said to write those stage 1 and 2 prompt responses immediately after an observation? That would really get you a huge step towards having the paper done ahead of time so that it's not this dreaded big thing that's worth so much in the class at the end. The paper should be at least 4 typed pages, and I added those page lengths so that I think that makes sense. It probably need to be longer. I mean, it can definitely be longer. 12-point size, please use black colored font. I like single space, so please single space it. Please break your paragraphs down into chunks, into smaller paragraphs. Usually, I mean, paragraph is supposed to represent an idea, kind of has a unifying idea, and maybe within that paragraph you give an example of that idea and you write some commentary about that idea, for example. That's actually not necessarily correct in the case of this writing, though I'm thinking about this. You do have those prompts, so don't just ignore what I just said. And just think, though, you can always break a huge paragraph into 2 paragraphs, or maybe 3. Please don't give me a paper that's basically 4 paragraphs long, because each response to the prompt, that stage prompt, is a paragraph. Don't do that, please. Please please use multiple paragraphs. Multiple tiny paragraphs are much better than one or two huge ones, because it just makes them hard to read. Okay, so field experience submission. To demonstrate your learning through your field experience, you're going to submit the following via the Dropbox: the field experience timesheet, which we talked about above, and the field experience reflection paper, which we talked about above. Things to keep in mind: we're almost there, guys. Do not provide the full names of people that you wrote about, that you witnessed and hung out with in your field experience. In fact, it's good to just kind of change their names. I may contact supervisors at the end of the semester to verify your participation. The 10-hour field experience is immensely important to your completing this course. You can get at best an incomplete in the course if you don't complete this. Okay, this is a COE rule. So even if I didn't care if you completed the field experience, you still have to do it. Okay, I'm bound to make sure that you do it. And finally, it is not necessary to include the 5 hours of course embedded field experiences in the timesheet. The paper deals only with the 5 hours you selected. And I think you know what I mean by that. You saw how the timesheet already had those 5 hours of course embedded stuff filled out. That's all that means. All right, so that's the field experience. I know it takes a long time just to kind of figure out the details, but really it's a pretty simple thing once you consider all of the setup details and the logistics and the requirements and all that kind of stuff. Please let me know if you have any questions. Please post those questions to the course questions and answers board if you think anybody else will benefit from them. Thank you.